to the world and to the kingdom citizens. I greet you in the precious holy name of Yeshua Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, who said in his word, John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Hi, I'm Dr. John Curry, Ambassador, Pan-African, and welcome to the Embassy of the Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. If you want to follow this podcast, please subscribe to JC Global Embassy TV 1. Ring the bell and hit the thumbs up button. Today's message is entitled, Critical Race Theory. Why are white people afraid to tell their children their true history? Critical Race Theory. Why are white people afraid to tell their children their true history? And we're going to go in on this, and hopefully you can glean from it and receive from it as is intended for you to receive. Now let's go in. We're talking about now, they're saying eracism, but a lady by the name, an attorney, Kimberly Crenshaw, creator of critical race theory. She is an American lawyer, civil rights advocate, a philosopher. She is a full-time professor at the University of UCLA School of Law and Columbia Law School, where she specialized in race and gender issues. You see, critical race theory originated in the mid-1970s in the writing of several American legal scholars, including Derek Bell, Alan Freeman, Kimberly Crenshaw herself, Richard Delgado, Cheryl Harris, along with Charles R. Lawrence III, as well as Patrick J. Williams. These are the individuals that came together, along with, I'm sure, many others, to create this legal brief, critical race theory. Now, within critical race theory, there are 5 tenets of CRT. 5 tenets of critical race theory. And number 1 is the ordinariness of race. The ordinariness of racism. And the second one would be the interest of conversion. The third would be a social construction of race. In other words, racism didn't just start until basically around the early 1400s, when the Europeans came together to call themselves coming into power, to go all over the world and so-called take the world over. That's when it began to become racism. And now we're hearing phrases like eracism, and that is to get rid of racism so people can be what they need to be. The fourth one is the inferential rationalization of intersectionality. Let me say it again. The differential rationalization of intersectionality. That simply means people have to find their way to come together to understand what this is all about. And the fifth one is a unique voice of color. Now, why does all of these tenets have to be here? They have to be here because the Europeans, with white racism, they decided to make everybody bow to them if they, in fact, are not white. You see, critical race theory is racism in an intraceable problem in America. That's what it is. It's an intractable problem in America, and that racism is the foundation of this nation. Now, there are some people that have a problem with that, but George Washington didn't have a problem with that. Abraham Lincoln didn't have a problem with that. You know, all of the founding fathers, they knew what they was doing. They set it up so America can be this so-called shining light on the hill. That's what Ronald Reagan called it, America is shining light on the hill. But while being a shining light, they dimmed everybody else's light so everybody could look at white Europeans as being the standard of humanity. That's why it's necessary for all groups to share their history, but white America don't want to do that, because when white America allow everyone else to share their history, white America history is diminished. So critical race theory looks at the fact of American institutions. It looks at society and in all America's laws, of which we cannot deny. It is eating away at the fiber of this nation. You see, racism is all over America. It's incidental racism. It's on-the-fly racism. It's when I see you racism. You know how the young people say, wherever you at, racism. On the spot, racism. I'm coming for you, racism. It's going down, racism. No matter what you're doing, racism. You walk outside, racism. You coming in the house, racism. You know, you go to the mall, racism. You're in church, racism. It's everywhere. And it's everywhere because this is what the Europeans wanted it to be. They wanted it to be to have black people in particular, to fear them no matter where black people go, racism was there. And it's still there. Nothing has truly changed. And I know there are some people saying, well, a lot has changed. My question to you is, show me what has truly changed over the last 400 years. Well, you say we can vote. Well, they're trying to deny that vote right now. Well, you say you can live in particular neighborhoods. Well, they're trying to block that out by raising your taxes. You know, say, well, you can get a job and work with white people. Well, they're still trying to fire you. You know, nothing has truly changed except for those that are descendants of slaves that are living and those that was holding slaves. Those people, we have changed. The slave master is no longer the slave master, and the slave is no longer the slave. Not in the sense of doing manual labor, but it's the same thing in the sense of whites thinking that they're better than black folks and better than everyone else. That's called white privilege. They think that everything's supposed to be around them. And when it doesn't happen, then they start to get mad and they go off. They start creating problems because when you're spoiled and you think everything's supposed to be around you and about you, you don't want no one else to come and get what you've had for over 400 years. So it's in the fiber of this nation. It's everywhere in America. Critical race theory helped explain how racism permeates the law in our society. That's what it's done. It let people know that it's everywhere. See, as a black man, when I walk out the door, when I leave my house and I'm confronted with racism. I even had, when we bought our property and moved in this house that God has blessed us with, I'm riding through the neighborhood and a white police officer pulled me over and said, well, what are you doing in this neighborhood? And then I pretty much just said, sir, well, why do you want to know? So I can't drive through the neighborhood? He said, well, I just kind of want to know. I haven't seen you over here. I said, well, sir, I just purchased some property here just for your information. And he said, oh, okay. And I said, well, but why would you want to know that? See, so it's everywhere. Going to work, you get pulled over and they're asking you a question. The license plates are not, you just got a new car and you haven't got your license plates back and got a sticker in your window with the question they're asking, did you steal the car? It's everywhere. It's in the mall, it's going down. You've heard me say earlier, everywhere you go as a black man or a black person. Years ago, it used to be black men, but now it's black women too. They're killing us everywhere. And then when you do podcasts like this, then they think that you shouldn't talk about it. Are you crazy? If black people are getting beat up, shot, killed, our women are being shot and killed, our children are being shot and killed, for me to be silent is basically saying that I don't care about our people. But racism is everywhere in every fiber. But whites now want to cover it up. They want to hide it. They want the world to think that we didn't do all of that. They want the world to think of them as the Savior. They want the world to think of them as Jesus that came and saved the world. Black folks was over there in the jungle, swinging from trees. Black folks couldn't read, couldn't write. They was the beasts of the field. And even put it in the law, of 1705, declaring black people as animals, 3/5 human. So some of them still have that mindset, that you're ignorant, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing. So when they see someone like myself that understand what has happened in the last 6,000 years as a black historian, I can talk about it freely because I understand where they are at. And now whites are at the crossroads of trying to maintain their sanity and don't want their little children to feel like somehow that their forefathers were monsters, going all over the world, killing everybody. And in some instances, they're doing that even now. So what do? Whites today, to be an anti-racist. Now, you would think that would be a good moral thing to do. But for whites, they say no. To be an anti-racist, they say no. To be an integrationist, you would think with whites that they have no problem with integrating with everybody. If you got all the power, you definitely got all the guns. Why would you have a problem with integrating with other people? But whites say no. To have cultural diversity, whites say no. In essence, whites don't want to get to know you. Because if they get to know you, then they have to treat you like a human being. And for them to treat you like a human being means that their numbers are going to go down because of the melanin that is in black and brown skin. Whites, in their head, can't afford to be nice to black and brown people. So they say no to anti-racists. They say no to integrationists. They say no to having cultural diversity. So to critical race theory, whites are still saying no. Remember, whites love to play three roles. You've heard me say before, they love to play the role of the victor. We're conquering the world. We're going all over the world and we're going to murder everybody and conquer the world and we're going to do what we do best. That's what they're doing right now with Putin, man inhumanity to man. And he's murdering, killing folks, raping folks, doing everything right now. So they want to play that role. We're going to conquer the world and you can't do nothing about it. Then on the other hand, they want to play victim. The world is conquering us. We got to fight for our rights. We got to take America back. We got to take America back because the world is trying to take our country. They're trying to take our country. I'm looking around. I'm trying to figure out who's trying to take it. But that's their paranoia. That's whites' paranoia. And the third role they love to play is the role of no accountability. That's a narcissistic role. A narcissistic role would say, I don't have to apologize to anybody because I'm better than everybody. That's a narcissistic role of no accountability. And when they play that role, they like to play it as though they're the victim, Well, they're hurting us, we're not hurting them. We need to put up more walls around the border because they're trying to take our country. See, it's narcissism with victimization. So they kind of balance between those three roles. Victor, we're going to take the world over. Victim, the world's going to take us over. And we have no accountability. We're not going to apologize to you, so don't be asking us to apologize to you. We're not going to pay you reparation. We know we had you in slavery for all that time. We ain't giving you a dime. Okay, and if we do, we're going to lump everybody else in there. Oh, you want reparation? Okay, we're going to add transgender to it. We're going to add homosexuals to it. We're going to add Native Americans to it. We're going to add all these other groups to it, all these horizontal groups. And by the time black folks get reparation, you may be able to get $2, $3 a piece for every black person. They just don't want to do the right thing when it comes to black people. Period. And black folks are running, trying to vote for these different people. And every time you vote, you get choked because they give you nothing. And reparations is not about giving us anything anyway. It's about paying us back our due. So critical race theory and talking about racism in America is necessary to talk about it because white people want it both ways. They want to be able to treat you like a dog and get mad at you for saying that hurt. Then they say it didn't hurt. It's stupid. It don't make sense. but they want the world to see them, whites, as Jesus Christ, that they're coming to save the world with the Messiah complex. Here's some statements of those that oppose critical race theory. A man by the name of Christopher R. Ruford stated that critical race theory is a state-sanctioned racism. Isn't that amazing? I'm trying to figure out how can he get his mouth to say that when the whole American history was state and nation-sanctioned racism against black folks. He went on to say critical racism focus on white guilt from the past and not the present. Well, black folks are still being murdered right now. So if white got guilt, then they got it from the past and the present. It's not about no white guilt. It's about the truth of what white people have done to black folks and other people. So they don't want you to talk about the history because it may cause their children to feel guilty. Oh, okay, it's about white children. What about these little black children that have been experiencing this hate for the last 400 years? You mentioned nothing about them. What about the traumatic factors that they go through? What about the trauma that they go through when they get on the bus, when they get off the bus, when they're walking home from school? What about the trauma that our black children go through when they're at the mall? What about the trauma that they go through when they're trying to walk home and a white racist cop stops them and start asking them some dumb questions? What about that trauma? But no, Mr. Christopher R. Ruford stated that CRT is state-sanctioned racism. Okay, how about the local sanctioned racism? That racism that's in all of these small towns, that racism that still use the code of sundown towns. What about that racism? What about these racist cops that's pulling people over just because they want to? How about that racism? Our children are suffering traumas, and not just our children, but black men, black women all over America know that when they leave their home, they may not necessarily make it back because of racism. And then they have the nerve to use the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words when he said, "Don't judge a man by the color of their skin, but by the content of his character." Isn't that amazing? They take Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King words and use it against his own people. So you can't judge us because we're white. You have to look at us individually by the content of our character. Well, that's what white people are still doing right now to black folks. They're judging us by skin color. They don't want to know about your character. And even if you say that you're a good guy and they find out you're a good guy, they still going to judge you by the color of your skin. See, that is the paradox. White people want it both ways. Now they want to play the role of victim. I keep telling you, they only got three roles: victor, victim, and no responsibility. When you catch them in lies, now they don't want to take responsibility for it. Well, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't do it. No. And they keep on moving. That's narcissism. See? So we have to come to understand that using Martin Luther King and saying these things about Martin Luther King, don't judge a man by the color of his skin, by the content of his character. He was talking to white folks when he said that. That wasn't permission for white people to tell black folks, stop judging us by the color of our skin. No, that wasn't permission for white people to use that. That was for white people to stop judging black people by the color of our skin. But here's one thing that they forgot that Dr. Martin Luther King said. They forgot that Dr. Martin Luther King also said that while that white people are mostly subconsciously racist. That's what Dr. Martin Luther King said, that white people are mostly subconsciously racist. In other words, you thought you were just dealing with just a regular old preacher that was just happy to get some attention. No, Dr. Martin Luther King understood very well what racism was, and he understood how it works. He even said that black people need to have a time so we can heal. and build, but you kept coming with your racist self trying to tear stuff up. And now you're all upset that your history is coming out and you're trying to block it, so your white kids won't know their history. See, I wonder, will the white Ukrainians and Putin's Russia will be able to tell their children about the war with Putin and Ukraine without making them feel guilty? Are you going to allow the Ukrainians and the Russians to know their history when it's all over television now? Everybody's seeing it. Everything that white Europeans did to other race groups, they're doing to themselves. Murder, mayhem, rape, stealing stuff, lying about it, just destruction, total destruction. As John 10:10 says, and the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. Jesus said that I came that they may have life and that they might have it more abundantly. Whenever you're watching television from Russia to Ukraine, is murder and mayhem, rape. Rape is a word they love to use because it's a code word normally given to black folks or brown folks. But now they're using rape and all that with themselves. See, that's wickedness. That's evil. And God ain't happy with that. God knows the heart of every man and every woman. And God knows that's an evil heart that will turn on children, turn on men, turn on women, and kill them for nothing. Just basically murdering folks, basically practicing genocide to get rid of a people, and a people, their own people. And everything they're doing to the Ukrainian, they've already did to black and brown all over the world. So no one should be asking other groups not to talk about their history, because I know they're going to share the Ukrainian history, and I know they're going to share the Russian history, because even if they decided not to do it, it's in public right now. History is the light post to the past, as well as the light post to the future. If a man does not know his history, he will not know where he's going, nor will he know where he's been. It's important for white children to understand what took place 400 years ago. And maybe these white children will have a better answer than their forefathers. Maybe they will have a more intelligent answer than their forefathers of paying black folks reparation for the 400 plus years that black folks has been involved in this nation. So you can try to hide your history, but it's already exposed all over the world. Every culture already know what the Europeans have done to them, or what was done to the Europeans while they was trying to do it to them. This history is already out there. But you want to ask the Japanese, okay, let's stop talking about their history. Let's stop talking about the Indian history. And you definitely want to ask the Jews, y'all need to shut up talking about the Holocaust. No, because it'll never happen. Just like with black folks, our history is in the Bible. So you Europeans, if you want to basically stop black history, and you want to stop us as black folks from knowing our history, here's something that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get all the Bibles in the world and burn them all up. Why? Because black history, African history, is all in the Bible. From Genesis to Revelation, our history is everywhere in the Bible. So to get rid of black African history, just get all your Bibles and throw them away. Because you will never be able to deny the history of black folks and Americans throughout the world, because our history is interconnected with the Word of God. I trust you can believe it. I trust you can receive it. And remember, CRT is just a guidepost to get white people to start looking at things differently. And also, CRT, critical race theory, is something that helped the legal brief. So for white people to deny your children their history, because you're afraid of them knowing how wicked and vile their forefathers were, is a setup for failure. I trust God you can believe it. I trust God you can receive it. And I trust God you'll come and join us again. Until next time, God bless.